Welcome to Help on Demand Live. I'm John Newmeyer, Vice President of International Sales, and I'm here with co-host Chad Zekiel, who is the VP of Strategy and Business Development for us. We're pleased to have via Zoom today Jeffery Bustamante. He is the CEO of BeWell New Mexico. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
We know you got a busy schedule, so we'll try and stay on track today, but with everything going on, I know you're very, very busy and your team's busy. So with that, I guess to start it out, if you wouldn't mind sharing with us a little bit about your background, Jeffery.
Absolutely. So again, I'm Jeffery Bustamante. I'm with BeWell New Mexico. I've been there for 6 years now, 6 years and a month, almost to the day, actually. I had initially come on board to do some really just business work and support the organization, some policy work, and ultimately moved into the CEO role back in 2019. It's been an exciting path for us since then. Before my time here, I've done some work with a variety of areas here in New Mexico. I worked for U.S. Senator Jeff Bingaman, as well as U.S. Representative and now Senator Ben Ray Lujan, both representatives of New Mexico. And in my time there, did a lot of health work, a lot of constituent services work, scheduling, a variety. But what really drew me over to the health insurance exchange was the opportunity to dive fully into health policy and health work across the board.
Nice. Well, I have a background a little similar to you. I've been in insurance, but more importantly, in relation to what you're doing, is I worked for 4 years with Connect for Health Colorado, the state-based exchange here, working with the brokers and navigators and things like that. So if you wouldn't mind just kind of starting off, share with us the kind of the demographic of the marketplace in New Mexico, and different things like that kind of relate to maybe what led to this and those kind of things.
Absolutely. So the marketplace here is very unique, and in the Southwest in general. I think our states, with Connect for Health Colorado, the Nevada Health Link, we all are so distinct from the rest of the nation and even from one another. So here in New Mexico, we actually are a majority minority state. So we have a strong Hispanic population here, but also a variety of just a strong diversity in New Mexico. And that's not just, ethnically or that, it's also geographically. We're the 5th largest state in the United States down here, and with a strong distribution, both urban and rural. We're actually about 33% rural. And so how you serve that population has to match the communities you're going into. And that's part of our overall approach, is a very strong community-based effort to get New Mexicans connected to coverage. And we've seen that pan out with the individuals we enroll. Here in the state, we did do Medicaid expansion, so we have a lot of folks on Medicaid, but we have a lot of households where maybe the children are on Medicaid and the parents are on exchange. And so our ability to also address that circumstance is critically important. So when we start diving into the demographics, it really is like an onion in the best way, that you can peel back layer by layer to really understand the state and the people you serve.
That's great. Jeffery, I was wondering, you said you've been there for 6 years. Tell me about the journey a little bit. So how did you kind of get started, and, how far have you made it upon your journey, on your objectives to cover New Mexicans?
So it has been, like I mentioned earlier, a really exciting journey. And I'm actually going to go back a little bit before my time here. So New Mexico was going to be one of the states that launched its own state-based exchange technology solution back in 2013. To ensure a successful launch, the state ultimately opted to not bring the individual side live. We do have our own small business platform here. And that was for 13, and then ultimately 2014. And then really in a just cost benefit analysis and how we best serve New Mexicans, it was determined that we stick on healthcare.gov. And healthcare.gov has worked out really well for us over the years. However, back in 2018, we had looked at that again and had always kind of kept an ear to the ground for technology costs and what we could really get. And in 2018, and then again in 2019, really doubled down on this opportunity to move to a state-based exchange. And so a full one with the individual technology as well. And so we're in that transition period right now. We'll be launching here in just a couple months. So it's an exciting, if not at times, very stressful summer for us to make sure everything comes together, but stressful in the best way, because it really does enable us to take our next steps. As I mentioned, in a lot of ways, healthcare.gov has been a great fit for New Mexico. But as we look towards next steps, there's certain things that we need the technology here in the state to be able to achieve. And there's some really exciting stuff happening here in New Mexico around plan design, as well as additional assistance to individuals to getting that coverage, as well as some pretty creative ideas to help people stay connected to coverage. So where are we on our journey? Well, we're on the way. It's the pandemic certainly threw us a curveball, just like everybody on the globe, right? But it did throw us a curveball. Coverage has changed because of the pandemic. Even if the plans don't look different, things like that, how we connect people to coverage absolutely has, and how we encourage them to use it absolutely has. And our ultimate goal is to get every New Mexican covered. So for that reason, we're not there yet, but we are certainly on the path. And with some of the things we're talking about building, it's going to greatly enhance our ability to take those next steps.
We, as you probably know, we work with about 41 other marketplaces across the United States. And as you mentioned, everybody has their challenges and opportunities and, the way they work with brokers and navigators and those kind of things. What do you, I guess the best way to describe it is, at Connect, for example, we wanted to have a very tight relationship with the navigators and the brokers. And we're able to do that through various kinds of trainings and, events and stuff like that. How do you guys work on building that relationship a little bit stronger with brokers and agents and the navigators in the state of New Mexico?
That's a great question. And it's a question I think a lot of state-based exchanges are talking through right now. I actually was on a call yesterday that we had scheduled one to talk about this specifically. Here in New Mexico, though, it's an effort to ensure that we are coordinating and communicating. When the Affordable Care Act first rolled out, there certainly on both the navigator and the broker agent side, I think there was some concern about being duplicative, maybe competition, things like that. But we have worked, and Maureen, our Director of Communication and Outreach, has worked tirelessly on this in particular, have worked to change that from a competitive environment to something where we can coordinate. And there really are areas that brokers and agents can go further or really enhance that experience and ultimately support any New Mexican that navigators can't, and vice versa. We have navigators in areas where we don't have agents and brokers. And so it's really re-envisioning this environment to ensure that they're coordinating and supporting one another, and then ultimately just getting that individual to the enrollment. But this is also where it goes even further, because one thing that, as we talk about getting all of New Mexico covered, our job doesn't just stop when somebody enrolls. We've got to make sure they're happy with their plan, they're using their plan, that they're using it to its best effect. I mean, getting that yearly appointment and knowing how they can navigate it and what best fits their needs. And not only does the exchange come in that environment to do that work, but most notably our navigators, agents, and brokers do. And so it's more of a longitudinal support effort that we get, not just from ourselves, but from our network of partners and enrollers, and making sure that they're working together to support the New Mexican at the end of the day.
Great. Yeah. Jeff, I was wondering, you mentioned New Mexico as a diverse geography, culture, and demographics. How are you specifically leveraging technology through your programs to cover all those unique challenges?
Absolutely. Well, technology in a lot of ways can be the backbone of what we do, and services like Help on Demand really do enhance our ability to drive that home. And there's a handful of reasons for this, and I'll keep it pretty concise. But ultimately, as we reach out and get people connected to appointments, to enrollment, to anything, technology facilitates a lot of that. And I can tell you right now that some of our partners would say, well, absolutely. But there are people in New Mexico who don't have access to the internet, who don't have, those sorts of tools available to them. Which I would respond, absolutely right. And to make sure we're serving those people to the best of our ability, technology is almost doubly important for us because it allows our partners who are going out to those communities and supporting them to make sure that they're talking to one another and tracking and doing all of their work for the follow-up, for the communication, because the technology isn't necessarily driving it home on the New Mexican side. So we need to make sure that we're doing the proper communication and tracking on our side. And so how does that iterate itself? Well, everything from things like virtual appointments for those who can, to, again, just the tracking and communication we have on the back end. And that's really where Help on Demand comes in.
Oh, wow, good.
What, every state's different, but do you work independently in a sense of the state legislature for making decisions or things? Do you work hand in hand with them? I mean, how hands-on, is the government there in New Mexico with the marketplace?
So I'll start by saying what we technically are, and we are a pseudo-governmental nonprofit corporation. And in 8 years, I'm still trying to figure out that exactly. But it actually kind of fits for us because we do work with our state legislature. We do work with our governor's office and our partners in the superintendent of insurance, that's our DOI here, as well as the Human Services Department, which oversees Medicaid. We have a lot of integration, but we also have some independence. So things like enrollment periods and other policies come from our board. And our board are 13 members from across New Mexico. It's a wonderfully diverse board, which engages health insurance carriers, health providers, community advocates. It's an excellent board that really collectively works with our partners, but also within the organization to set the path. So really, it's a little bit of all of it. And because we've worked so hard to really make sure those communication channels are positive and productive, it's allowed us to leverage that wide network of authority, if you will, and produce results.
Yeah, I guess this is kind of a catch-all question, but you can take it wherever you'd like. It's like, what is your biggest challenge right now? What keeps you up at night as you go down this journey to cover more New Mexicans?
It's probably exactly that. And the greatest challenge, I would say, is making sure we are there where New Mexicans need it. And if somebody gets to, let's say, a heart condition or something wonderful like the birth of a child, and they don't have health insurance, and they could have come to us and received coverage, that keeps me up at night. Every night, I know there's New Mexicans out there that we could be covering and helping them only worry about the health of the circumstance they're in, but they're also worried about their health insurance coverage. And, it drives me crazy knowing that. And so we work very hard and have shifted the organization significantly, and we're in the middle of it, but continuing to make sure that we have that community level outreach so that when people have those questions, we're there to help them. On the more day-to-day, it's the technology, it's the crazy environment we find ourselves in. We're still in this pandemic, and yes, we're on hopefully the off ramp of this, but there's new challenges. There's a new world coming, from this, in the sense that certain things like social distancing in stores may stay, and virtual appointments, the ability of people to sit in the comfort of their own home and work in an environment much like this to figure out their plans, that's there. So we've made a lot of enhancements, but making sure that we have those tools ready to not just support folks, but also support the volume of them who would rather do that now, also keeps me up at night. Now, that's not to say that I don't get a good night's rest, but there's a handful of things because the work is so important, right? We need to make sure to get, these folks supported.
Well, it's Chad and I come from working with different insurance carriers, been in the insurance world for, quite a long time. And, there's such a dynamic with each of the carriers, and especially when you're working in the marketplace or the exchange. And how have you built those relationships with carriers? I know that they decide potentially what plans are on the marketplace, those kind of things. How would you describe the relationship of starting with the marketplace and then coming through to where you are today and that relationship with
That's a
those
good
carriers?
question. I can't wait to hear his answer.
So we have a really positive relationship with our insurance carriers here. Oh, sorry if you got a little background noise there. So we have a very positive relationship with our health insurance carriers here, and there's a handful of reasons for that. So they are on our board, first and foremost. Per our enabling legislation, we actually have to have health insurance carriers on our board. And this is a bit distinct from some other exchanges that have their own governing board. Some prohibited it, some encouraged it, but for us, it really supports getting that carrier perspective in the decision-making process. And so we've had most, but not all of our current carriers on the exchange have a member on the board for some stretch of time. And that's really a great starting place. We also have a stakeholder advisory committee, and that has representation from carriers on our exchange, but also carriers not on our exchange. Sometimes they're interested in joining. Sometimes they just want to listen in. And so we have that group. It used to be that we met quarterly outside of open enrollment, and then we would meet monthly. We're actually meeting monthly right now, and we have an hour to 2 hours of content monthly for that group. And while at large it's diverse, we really have had strong carrier representation there to talk through what they're seeing and hearing, what we're seeing and hearing. And so it's really just about communication. And then as you step, beyond that, I have touch bases. It's either monthly, sometimes bi-weekly with each of our carriers here. And it's really just to make sure that we keep that conversation going. And that goes beyond just, that group. We have it with providers, we have it with advocates, but I figure especially in this environment with pandemic, with technology build, with open enrollment, you can't be talking enough.
Yeah, just as a follow-up to that, I think my perception, and I'm interested in yours, is nationally a lot of carriers got into the individual space immediately. It didn't work out well in a lot of situations, so they retreated. And it seems like now that market, the individual market's much more competitive. More carriers are coming into it. You're seeing more options in New Mexico?
So we are. New Mexico's actually been a standout in this area for a handful of reasons. Again, we have a positive carrier environment here in New Mexico, but also our Office of Superintendent of Insurance has worked very hard over the years to make sure that New Mexicans have options. So here in our state, if you offer on the exchange, you have to offer in every county, period. And so we've never had those concerns of counties without coverage, because if you're going to offer in Bernalillo, which is our most populous county, you're also going to be offering in Harding, in Union, and some of these, let's say, quieter counties. So that has helped a lot. We have currently 5 health insurance carriers. It's been typically 4 or 5. I think one year we were down to about 3, but it's never been fewer than 3. And so New Mexicans have had a lot of options there. But you're right on the money saying that the environment seems to have stabilized. Carriers are able to support the populations of states, and more are joining now. And we anticipate over the upcoming years the chance that more will be joining these 5. And so we're really excited about that. We're excited to see what they can offer and what they'll be able to do to really keep this market competitive. And finally, that's really made a big deal here. We tend to be top 10 for the lowest premiums as well.
That's great.
Lots of things in the strategy world for you guys, and a lot of the marketplaces I know are starting to look at, do they offer other products? So typically marketplaces are individual health insurance, maybe the shop or the small group products. I know, talking with some of the members of your team, you're exploring other product options. Can you share with us maybe, what those product options are and what led you to maybe considering doing more than just health insurance?
Absolutely. So currently we offer health insurance and dental, and that's a nationwide thing. I think every exchange has got a pretty established market at this point on those. But as we look towards the future and how we serve our population, other products are, of course, part of that conversation. So the one that emerges, I think, in most conversations is vision, and how you go beyond what some health insurance covers. And some health insurance does cover, whether it's a set of glasses a year or something like that. But anybody who needs glasses, I think, knows that contacts help, maybe a couple pairs, glasses break, and just the reality of the situation that is part of your overall health. And as we look back at our mission, we're always looking at what we can legally offer, because there are some federal parameters around this, to ensure that we are enhancing the health of New Mexico. So like I said, vision's the first one that probably emerges in that. There's always, conversations around other things, how we offer it as well, and how we can, I don't want to get in trouble with any, let's say, multi-offering company here, but how we bundle and how we drive that home and help people with their shopping experience as well.
I know, speaking on the product side, is that even at Connect, we were looking at if you will, kind of a profit side of the organization. And one of the products that we were looking at in there was actually pet insurance, of all things. And, people would laugh about that a little bit, but you know what? Your pets, and Chad and I each have dogs and other pets, and, they become such a part of the family that when you're talking about insuring, it's pretty important for that. So as funny as it sounds, that would be something I'd throw out to you guys. It seems like a very nice fit within what you guys are doing.
Oh yeah, I'd be the first in line to not only advocate for us offering pet insurance, but also to really sign up. It was just a little kind of personal moment here. It was a tough winter for us with our pets this winter. We, despite vaccination, had some challenges with parvo, and fortunately, my husky and my dachshund made it, but it was definitely a tough winter. And, and that's it for humans, but for pets too, the ability to just make sure that wellness is your first decision. So it's really a lesson learned, I think, across the board. But like I said, that was a humbling experience, but also one that have explored pet insurance individually. And man, if we could put that on our exchange long term, like I said, I'll probably be the first one when that flip gets switched, or the switch gets flipped rather, to make that live, to sign up too.
I think 61.4% of Coloradans like their pets more than people anyway. So I just made that up, but I think it's true.
Can't beat a good dog or cat.
Yeah, for sure. John and Jeff, I think we had a lot of great content here. I think maybe we can do this again. What do you guys think about extending this and having another conversation?
Sure. Yeah, that'd be great. Jeffrey?
Absolutely. I would love to.
All right, sounds great. I look forward to catching up with you next week on our next episode of HOD Live.